John from Optics EQ, and I want to talk about plot results, OptixPLOT results. I think this could be a really good handicapping tool. I use it. It really helps me in a number of different ways. The first being that it helps me validate, the plots that I'm picking are predictive. It helps me really understand the relationship between the plot positions and run styles a lot better. And it also helps me kind of verify the track profile, that things are working according to the track profile and that there isn't some kind of bias evident. And so I really think it's a really good tool, and I suggest that people use it because I think it can help them become better, pace handicappers. So I'm going to look at, just for some examples, one's going to be a little bit more, I think, clear cut than the other. But we're going to start with race 4. And this happened on the 21st, which was Friday. We gave this one out at the webinar. We thought the number 2 Miss Big Stuff might clear off, and we thought the 3 and 5, who were the morning line favorites, might be vulnerable because of their run style and where we thought they might be positioned. We just thought that typically they like to be a little bit closer to the pace. And, it wasn't one of these definites, but again, we were just looking as a kind of a potential mismatch between their run style and where they would potentially be or plotted. And so the way you look at results is really simple. You just click the button on the left-hand side. You got to wait till the race is over, unfortunately, and you click it. And what it does is it does some color coding on the circles that indicate the win horse, the place horse, the show horse, and the 4th place finisher. So you can really clearly see where that horse was positioned in the plot. And also, it populates the bottom information. You'll see the odds in the finish position, final odds of the horse and finish position, each horse. And you could sort on that too. So if you want to bring those things to the top, it's really nice and useful there. So the thing to the right, the graph is, let's look at that because I think that helps actually tell us what happened. So again, we thought the 2 might clear, and that's what happened. The 2 broke on top. That's what this means. So this is the post position. Broke on top. So this horse is in first and just keeps going and wires the field. The number 1 broke a little bit tardy, but then kind of made it up and was in second position. But you can see this horse was 4 lengths behind. So the 2 had a clear lead, and that really kind of compromised some of the other pressers. As you can see, if you look at the 3, that horse was 5.5 lengths back, and the 5, the other one, 6.5 lengths. Those are the ones we were concerned about. And that just kind of put them in a tough position to overcome. And basically the 2 ran them off their feet. And that was kind of very predictive of what we thought. So we got lucky there. The other thing I want to kind of point out, because I think it's important, is you want to look at sometimes you might want to just validate track profile, and that's the impact TSD. And what that does, it just tells you for this particular race and this race specifically, what quadrant is best for a win percentage. And again, it's impact value, so it's normalized win percentage. So in this case, they were just saying quadrant 1 looks the best. Again, that's not a primary thing; it's secondary, but it's it's just good to know and just kind of validates. If you see normally the impact TSD is quadrant 1 horses, and you're seeing all quadrant 2 and 4 horses winning, there might be something up, and there's a potential track bias that day. So this is another way of understanding that. Another thing I want to show, I think, is important too, is that let's pull up the grid for this race because I want to show you how you can use actually this whole plot results in a different way. And let's just use the same race. And for instance, if Miss Big Stuff is running tomorrow and I just want to look at her previous race, I can double click, pull up the plot, see where she was positioned in the plot, and look at the results. So I just think that's, you can kind of go full circle. This is complete integration, soup to nuts. So, if you're just handicapping and you want to get a better understanding of, how that horse actually particularly ran that race, where they were in the plot, that's just something you can do, just another thing. The other race I want to look at is Keeneland race 3. This is kind of interesting. I thought I had this one all figured out. It worked out okay. It just didn't work out exactly the way I planned. And when you pace handicapping, you got to understand that. That's why it's more important to really find mismatches. And in this case, I thought a mismatch was the 5. The 5 was getting bet heavily. And it wasn't even. I mean, when you look at the morning line, this was the third choice. But for some reason, this horse got bet down to 4 to 5. And if you look at it again, this is kind of like the previous example where a horse that needs to be close up is going to be behind horses, and that's always a question mark. And when the horse is 4 to 5, you want to kind of look a little bit more further. Again, we always encourage you to do the form assessment stuff. Again, this is just a piece of it, but it's just kind of interesting. And if you look at the 2, who was one of the morning line favorites, actually went off nearly 9 to 1. But it looked like from a pace perspective, again, might be compromised, being that third quadrant horse that needs to be up close. It looked like the 1 and the 4 had an edge from a pace perspective to the second call. And remember, you can look at the second call by clicking this, and it shows you, again, it's diagonal. It looks like these 2 horses have an edge. Of the closers, it looked like to me the 3 was more of a closer, because this horse, if you could see that P1, C4, that means C4 means this horse ran 4 competitive races as a closer, and that 7.5 means that this horse was as far back as 7.5 lengths at the second call in some races. So this horse, qualifies as a closer. So, if the 1 and the 2, the 4 and the 5 kind of mixed it up, I thought the 3 could come running late, where the 6 looked more like a early presser type, I just think that position is not as good, for an early presser. So, I was kind of on the 4. I thought the 1 and the 3 can do some damage. So what happened? Well, chaos. That's what happened. The 4 didn't break with the field. Just didn't get out of the gate for whatever reasons. Was compromised, but just was the best horse. Overcame all the trouble and won the race. What was interesting was we expected the 1 to make the lead, and he did. But we expected the 2 and the 5 to really kind of be pressing, and it was the 3. So either the 2 and the 5 didn't show up, or they changed tactics on the 3. Not quite sure, but that's racing and that's pace handicapping. You have to deal with that. And again, that's why we're looking more for these subtle mismatches and value versus trying to predict everything, because you can't. They're animals, things happen, so it's something you got to deal with. So that's it. I just wanted to show you. I think plot results is a real powerful tool, and it could really help you with your handicapping and overall pace assessments.